guys, today we're going to talk about composite area. So remember, composite just means that we're going to have more than one shape put together. So to solve that, we have to break it off into pieces that we know or shapes that we know and find the area of each shape. And then depending on the question, we'll either add them all together or subtract them depending on what the question asks. So anytime we're talking about area, remember that you can always refer to your formula chart. You will have this on your STAR test. It'll be the first page and you can tear it out. So I highly suggest you do that. We have area section here, in which tells us we have triangle, rectangle, and parallelogram, trapezoid, and circle. So these are all formulas that we will need. Okay, let's look here. You also have this just for reference, so you don't have to go back and forth. But remember, you won't be given this on the STAR test. You will have to use your formula chart. Okay, so what is the first step in finding composite area? Well, that's going to be to separate into shapes that we know. The second step would be find the area of each individual shape. Then the final step, depending on the question, you're either going to add or subtract. And we'll say depends on the question. Okay, so let's look at our first problem. We have this composite figure. We know it's composite because by looking at it, that doesn't make any shape that we know. So I need to break it off, and I'm going to label mine by number. So I'm going to say this is shape number 1, this is shape number 2, and this is shape number 3. So looking at shape number 1, here is shape number 1, and I can see that that is a triangle. So I'm going to go to my chart, and it tells me a triangle. To find triangle, we do 1/2 times base times height. So 1/2 base times height. So remember this 90-degree square. If you have a 90-degree, you're always going to look for the 90-degree mark. You'll always have one for a triangle. So this is going to touch the base and the height. So here's our base and here's our height. Or either you can flip that around too. It doesn't really matter. So our base looks like it's 4. So we have 1/2 times 4. And then our height would be 11. So at this point, you have two options. We can do 11 times 4 and then take half of that, or if you like to do half of a number first, that's also an option. So I'm going to do the half of a number, so I'm going to say half of 4 is 2, and then times 11 would give me area of 22 centimeters squared. So that's just shape 1. I'm not finished yet, so I've got to go to shape 2. Shape 2 looks to be like a rectangle. I'm going to label this. So for a rectangle, if I forget, I can come and check. Rectangle is just base times height. So my rectangle looks like it's 8 by the base of my triangle, again, of 4. So 8 times 4 gives me an area of 32 centimeters squared. Shape 3. Now here's where some of us try and break this up again. But look, this is just a dotted line. It's just showing you that height. This is not a trapezoid and a triangle. That's going to be a lot more difficult. This is just one tilted rectangle, and that tilted rectangle we call a parallelogram. So on that parallelogram, they have to give us a 90-degree angle for the height. So that's where this dotted line is coming in. This is showing us our height. So we have a parallelogram. So for a parallelogram, I'm going to go check, and yep, it's the same as a rectangle, so base times height. So my base on my parallelogram looks like it's 8, and then here's my dotted line 90 degrees to show me the height of 6. So area of this would be 8 times 6 is 48 centimeters squared. Okay, so it said find the area of the whole figure. So since it's the entire figure, that's all of them together. So our final step would be to add each individual area together. So where did I get these numbers? It came from each area that we found. So once we add them together, 8 and 2 is 10, 10 and 2 is 12, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So the area, the composite area of that figure would be 102 centimeters squared. Okay, turn your page. Okay, here we have a basketball court. So it says find the area of the portion of the basketball court shown. So we just have this portion of our basketball court. So I can see that I have this whole circle. But do you see how this dotted line is here? That's telling me that this is already part of this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and break it up this way because I'm not really sure how we could find the other shape if I were to include that circle. So everything here is in this portion. So this is a rectangle. So I'm going to have a rectangle. And then now, since I've already included half of my circle here in the rectangle, then I'm going to switch colors. Then here, our other shape that's left is just half of a circle or a semicircle. I'm going to go ahead and write half. Okay, so let's look at our rectangle first. We know rectangle, you can look at your formula chart again. Rectangle here is base times height. So we have 19 by 12. So we would multiply that together. And get 228. Okay, then for our half circle here, we have what? What do we need to find area of a circle? Well, let's go to our circle here. And circle says we need pi times radius squared. Ooh, what does radius squared mean? That does not mean no times 2. No, 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 that's not what that says. That says radius times radius. So I have pi times radius, but how much of a circle do we have? We only have half, so we're going to divide that by 2. Okay, so we need to plug in some numbers here. Well, what do we know about this circle? It doesn't have any numbers. Well, I know that on a rectangle, this side is the same as this side. So that means all the way across my circle, what do we call that when it's all the way across the circle? That would be our diameter. So our diameter is 12. Well, that's not what we need. It says we need a radius. So I know that radius is half of my diameter. So radius would be 6. So now I'm going to plug that in. So we also know the number for pi. If you forget, that's okay because it's on your formula chart. It's right down here. It says pi is 3.14. So you have 3.14 times 6 divided by 2 because we're only finding half a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do my division. I'm going to say 6 divided by 2. Well, that's 3. So now I have pi times 6 times 3. Well, 6 times 3, that's 18. So I've got pi times 18. Whenever you do that multiplication, don't forget that you have to move your decimal in your answer 2 places. So area of this half of a circle is 56.52. Okay, well, it's asking for the area of the portion of the basketball court. So that's everything I see here. So that means I'm going to have to put my 2 areas together. So for composite area, we will have 228 plus 56.52. So remember, with the decimal, you have to line up your decimals. So this 228 would need some decimals. So composite area would be 284.52, and here's our unit, feet squared. good. Okay, I would like for you to pause the video and try this shape on your own. And then whenever you're ready to go over your work, you can push play again. Okay, so let's find the area of this figure. I'm going to go ahead and break it up into my two shapes. I see one shape here of a rectangle. And then I see a second shape here that is just one big triangle. Don't try to separate that right there. That dotted line does not mean separate it. That's just showing you how tall or the height of that triangle. So let's start with our rectangle. For a rectangle, we need a base times a height. So here's one and here's the other. So I have a rectangle is 9 by 7. So 9 times 7 is 63 meters squared. Okay, and then I have a triangle. And it's really easy to just write base times height, but remember a triangle is not base times height. If you forget, check your formula chart. Triangle is 1/2 times base times height. Very important. So we have 1/2 times, okay, we have to get our number here. The base of my triangle here, and it connects to my rectangle. So if this side of the rectangle matches this side, then they have the same number. So my base of my triangle is 9. And then the dotted line, your 90-degree square, you're looking for that 90 degrees to show you the height. The height of our triangle would be 6. Okay, remember at this point, you can do 9 times 6 and then divide that by 2, or I'm going to go ahead and take half a number. I know that half of 6 is 3. So 9 times 3, area would be 27 meters squared. So then our final composite area, or the area of all of my shapes together, would be 63 plus 27, which is 90 meters squared. How'd you do? I hope you did well. Okay? Pause again and try this one. This one's a little more difficult. That's a lot of circles. So before you even get started, kind of remember, what are you seeing here? You're seeing 4 half circles. Well, think about that. Can you put, since these are all the same number, since they're all 2 by 2 by 2, can you put these 2 halves together to make one whole? It would be a lot easier to do whole circles instead of finding 4 half circles. Okay, so pause and solve that. Okay, so let's check over how you did. I'm going to start right there in the middle and say I have a square, and it doesn't directly say that, but since this is 2, it's the same as the diameter of your circle. So this is going to be 2 for my height, and then my base for my square, since this is 2, would also be 2. So our square is base times height. 2 times 2 would give us an area of 4 feet squared. Okay, now to the difficult part, the circle. So go back. Make sure you're using the right part of your formula chart as well. This says circumference. We're not doing circumference. Be sure you're not under this section. We're under area. We're finding composite area. So circle down here shows us that this is pi r squared. So pi times radius squared, which is pi times radius, not times 2. Okay, so you should see that these two half circles would make one whole. And then these 2 halves would make one whole. So since they have the same dimensions, we can find one circle and then multiply that answer by 2. So let's find our first one. We have pi times r times r. So we have to be careful here as well. 2 represents all the way across the circle. So 2 is our diameter. But we don't need a diameter. We need to plug in a radius. So we need to take half of that. So half of 2 would give us a radius of 1. So we have pi, which is 3.14, times 1 times 1. Well, anything times 1 is itself. So one circle is 3.14. And how many circles did we have? We had 2 whole circles. So times 2. So both circles together, this is 2 circles, have an area of 6.28. So all together, our composite area would be 6.28 plus your 4 feet for your square. So be careful. 4 does not go here. 4 is a whole number, so it would go with your 6. So area of our shape all together, our composite area, 10.28 feet squared. All right, turn it over. We have a couple more examples here. So these are different because we're only going to find the area of the shaded region. So since this is missing, we're only going to find the area of the shaded. So I can see that I have a rectangle. So I'm going to start there. This is my first shape. Rectangle, base times height. So I have to be careful. There's lots of numbers here. But I need the one that's all the way across. This does not give me all the way across. This is just a piece. So all the way across is up here. So my base would be 13 times my height here. Sorry, these copies didn't do very well. I think that's an 8. So height of 8 here. So 13 times 8 would give us an area of 104 meters squared. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing off the paper. Okay, now I need to find this triangle, and I'm going to take it out because it's not shaded. So triangle, remember that's 1/2 times base times height. So 1/2 times, okay, this gets a little tricky. I can see my height right here. That's given to me by that 90-degree square. So 6, I can go ahead and plug in my 6 for my height. But then my base is a little bit tricky. It says that this piece is 4 and this piece is 4, but I know that all the way across is 13. So can we find this? I need this piece that's missing. Sure, we can take 13 and we can take out the 2 pieces it gave me. So 4 and 4 would be 8. So that leaves us 5. So our base would be 5. And you can check yourself if you want to, just to make sure. Does 4 and 4, 8, plus 5 give you 13? Sure. So our base here is 5. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do 1/2 of 6 again. So that's 5 times 3. And my area is 15. Okay, so we have to be careful here. We only want the shaded region. We don't want the triangle. Since the triangle's not shaded, we're going to take it out. And by take out, we mean subtract. So we're going to take this 104 rectangle and take out the triangle. So we're going to have to borrow here, make that a 10 and borrow again and make it a 9. And now we have 14. So 14 minus 5. Sorry, that kind of paused on me. Is a 9. And then 9 minus 1 is 8. And then that's a 0. So our composite area, or our shaded area, is 89 meters squared. Okay. Pause the video here and try this one on your own. And then we'll go over the answer. Okay, so on this one, again, we're finding just the shaded region. So I'm going to bring this down and close this in so that I can see I have one big triangle as my first shape. So that's 1/2 times base times height. 1/2 times. Okay, I'm going to have to do some addition here. So I can see that the bottom of my triangle, just this piece is 5, but I need this little piece that's missing. And that shows me that this top piece is 2. Well, if the top piece is 2 here, the bottom is 2. So 2 plus 5 would give me a base of 7. Now you're going to have to do some addition again for your height. Just this portion is 5. So then I need to figure out this portion. Well, if this side of the rectangle is 4, then this side is 4. So 5 plus 4 would give me a height of 9. Okay, neither one of these is even, so if you want to just go ahead and multiply and then divide at the end, you can. So I'll do that to show you. So 9 times 7 is 63, and then 63 divided by 2 would give us an area of 31.5 or 31.5. inches squared. Okay, now we have this rectangle here that we need to take out. So that's a base and a height. So our base we said was 2, and then just the height of our rectangle, not the height of the triangle. I just want this piece, so this is 4. So 4 times 2 gives you an area of 8. And that piece is missing. We need to take that rectangle out of our triangle. So here's our triangle, and we're going to take out the rectangle. So 5, bring down your decimal, and then we have to borrow here, and we get a shaded area of 23.5 inches square. Okay, try this next one. All right, I'm going to close this in so that I can see I have a rectangle or a square. It's actually a square, but they have the same formula. So base times height, that's going to be 6 by 6, which is area of 36. Then how much of a circle do we have? It's not a whole circle. It's only a half of a circle. So that means we're going to do pi times r and divide it by 2 because it's only half. So we need to think about this. All the way across would be the same side of this square. So if this side is 6, this side is 6. But it goes all the way across, so that's our diameter. But we need to find area with a radius. So take half of that to get your radius. So we'll have pi times 3 divided by 2. So I'm going to extend this way. So now I have pi times 3 is 9 divided by 2. So at this point you can do 3.14 times 9 and then take that answer and divide it by 2. I'm going to take half of pi because it ends in a 4. That's even, so I know it's divisible by 2. And pi divided by 2 is 1.57. So now I need to do 1.57 times 9. Oh, I just messed that up. I'm sorry. That's a 14. So our half a circle has an area of 14.13 feet squared. So go back to your shape. Was all of it shaded? Nope. Only just this side of the square. I need to take out the half a circle. So we have 36 from our rectangle. Take out your half a circle. So minus 14.13. And we get a shaded area of 21.87 feet squared. Okay, so 2 more problems real quick. These are word problems, probably more likely of what you'll see on STAR. So a painting company needs to finish painting the side of a building shown below. A gallon of exterior paint covers 250 square feet. That sounds important. How many gallons, ooh, that's what we're looking for. How many gallons of paint will the painting company need to paint the rectangular wall on the side of the building? So don't get confused when it says just rectangular. It's talking about this whole thing. So I need to divide it right there. And now I have a triangle. And I know that a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So let's look at this triangle here. This one's a little bit more difficult. So from here to here is 20 yards. On the bottom, though, you can see that from here all the way over to here is 30 yards. So if I take out this piece, if I were to take out this piece, would that leave just the base of the triangle? Yes, so that's how we find this base. It's 30 minus 20. So we're going to have a base of 10. And then you have to do the same thing for your height. So you can see all the way down to 16, but I don't need all the way down. My triangle stops right here. So that is 8 yards. So 16 minus 8 gives me a height of just my triangle of 8. So half of 10 is 5 times 8 gives me an area of 40 yards squared. Okay, for our rectangle, we need a base times a height. So you have to do the whole thing all the way across. I can't use 20 because 20 doesn't give me all the way across. I could do 20 plus 10, but then you already have it right here, 30. So base of 30 times how tall is just the rectangle, not all the way up, but just the rectangle, that's right here. Your height is 8. So area would be 240 yards squared. So I have to paint all of this. So to paint all of this, I have to paint this and the triangle, which means we have to add these. So 240 plus 40 gives me a total area of 280 yards squared. I promise you that that would be an answer choice because you've done math, but that's not what the question asked. It asked us how many gallons. Well, we need to go back here. It says that this would be a proportion, right? It's telling you how much for one. So 1 gallon, or this is our unit rate, 1 gallon of paint covers 250 square feet. Okay, so we have 280 yards. Ooh, what's wrong? We have yards and we have feet. That won't work. So what do we need to do? We need to convert this. So here's where you can go to your formula chart again on the back side, and it tells you that 3 feet are in 1 yard. So I need to change my yards to feet. So 280 yards. Well, I know that there are 1 yard is 3 feet. So we need to multiply. 280, excuse me, times 3 gives us 840 feet. So how many gallons do we need? Well, we got to figure that out. Use your proportion. Cross multiply or find your cross product. So 840 divided by 250. I would go ahead and get rid of your zeros by dividing by 10. So now we have 84 divided by 25. Well, I know that 3 would give me 75. And let's think about that. I don't even have to finish it out. I'm going to have a remainder. So would 3 gallons of paint cover everything, or am I going to have some left over? I'm going to have some left over. So 3 gallons of paint won't cover it. So how many am I going to buy? I'm going to have to buy 4. I'm not going to use all of 4, but that's how many I would have to buy. So I'm going to need 4 gallons of paint. You would have to round up. Okay, this last problem, if you would like to work it out on your own, you can come and check the answer key and it will be here for you. Or you can go ahead and skip over and start working on your homework. So you have a few questions for homework, 6 questions it looks like. Make sure you are reading. Is it asking for just the shaded region, or is it asking for everything all together? So good luck to you. Also, make sure you use your formula chart. If you have questions, you can ask the substitute. Thanks, guys.